Hey guys, it's Felly. For this video, we will be going over references and tracing. My thoughts on it. Is it cheating? Is it bad? All of that. We're going to get into it. Okay, so first off, I'm going to go over tracing. Because I feel a lot of people feel if you trace, it'll give you better results. But the truth is, if you're going over a reference that yes, that is realistically what happened in the picture, it doesn't always translate well. When using a reference, even if you are tracing, you still have to, as the artist, make things look accurate. Remember, humans are not always symmetrical. We're not always gonna be portion right. Some people do have short, stubby legs, or maybe longer upper bodies and shorter bottom. So see, I trace, but there's still issues you can see in the legs and in the arms. They kind of look like they're disproportionate, which no fault of the person this reference is from, but let's look at me drawing from it. And this is a quick, loose sketch of me trying to still use the same pose, but draw what I feel needs to be changed or different about it. And now you see side by side with the trace. So when working from a reference, what you need to keep in mind is you need to be able to break it down. The basic shapes, the form, the pose, all of that. So as you can see here, I am taking this one and outlining it to break it down so I have a better understanding of how it's structured and basically how it's set up. Now, I don't have a problem with this. I mean, if you trace, that's your thing, but I feel if you do, you should at least be upfront about it in reference, because, you know, that person that inspired you or gave you the means to finish your piece deserves credit, or else you wouldn't have been able to do it. So, we're going to break this down by the shapes and try to get a grasp understanding for it, which is good to break down the anatomy of a reference if you don't have such a great skill set with that, if you're not comfortable. This is something you can do to try to understand the shapes, especially if it's from a different angle or perspective that you're not comfortable with. But this is something I would do just to get a grip on the pose before I would attempt to do it myself. And then you can kind of use it to compare on what you did or didn't do right, or what you feel you can do better than the original. Because remember, just because you have a photo of it doesn't mean it is great or accurate or ready to go. You still have a job to do, even if you use a reference. So here's how I use a reference. We're going to take this pose and I'm going to go ahead and sketch it out. But the thing is, when I do references, I never just use one photo. So I would do something like this, take a photo, sketch the whole thing out, but then I want to add to it to make it my own, or change it up, because sometimes that's not enough. You may get a commission, you need a specific pose, and this may only be halfway there. So once we lock all of that in, what I would do is do some more searching for another reference, something that has something similar to what I'm trying to achieve, or what I want, or even saw and was like, that might be interesting. So I'm going to switch out the arms and legs, and I'm going to add this arm pose and try to incorporate this leg pose. But notice now it doesn't look right. You can't realistically stand that way. I'm gonna keep the arm though. So then let me get another image and see if I can do something else. But this is just my process. I don't stop with one photo. Some pieces, depending on how complex it is, I may use 4 to 5. So see, this has a leg pose I'm interested in, but notice I am not copying it directly, I am just taking from it. And see, with that now, I have something sketch-wise for my layout that's nothing close to what I started with. Now, I'm gonna show you how you can use references to try to check yourself as far as anatomy goes and all that. We have this pose. So it's a good crouching pose. You notice, even though we're looking at a reference, it's kind of cluttered where the foot is because of the jeans. But still, I will block out the body. And I usually do this in color. That way it's easy for me to see. Because if you use black over this, it may get caught up in the colors and things may not be as distinguished. But I block out the whole thing so I get an understanding for how it is. And then to the side of it, I will do it from just looking at it. So I gave you the trace version. Now I'm going to show you my interpretation of it, just using it as a pure reference. Notice I'm changing things I feel that would make it a tad bit better. Not saying it's right, but I'm saying this is my interpretation of it. See, notice you can already tell the differences, but we can even do an overlap, and then you can see exactly how different minds end up coming out. And this typically happens when you use a reference, because I feel even when using reference, you don't want to just straight be a copy machine. So now I'm going to show you using a reference to make a full concept. So I took this photo. It's from a woman's flag football. And then we're going to go ahead and use it as a base and try to create something of our own. So I'm going to try as close as I can mimic the body. But you notice her foot, to me it looks kind of weird, the angle it's pointing forward at, because it's not pointing straight in front of her, it's pointing off to the side. So those are things I would correct. I changed her hand position because it doesn't work for me. It's just like, you take what you do need and leave everything else you don't. That's how I view references. So you see now I'm using the base and I'm able to build off of that. I am quickly sketching a concept out. And it's all thanks to this pose. And there you have it. So in my honest opinion, I feel references aren't bad. You don't have to feel guilty for using them. They're not cheating. It's not some underhanded tactic. It's another way to use it. Most of the industry, that from my experience, uses references. In movies for concept art, you may get a reference sheet or a folder of random things they want you to incorporate or use as a basis for your art. It is common practice. Tracing, that's a double-edged sword. There's a form of art called rotoscope where it's basically tracing for animation. That's a part of it anyway. Disney has done that for animations. They have traced over stuff for complicated animation scenes that they didn't want to take the time to block out and do themselves, especially the dancing ones in their earlier films. Now, but they're open and upfront about it. If you're going to trace, I feel you should let people know, because there's still a skill necessary to trace and make it look good. I've seen people trace and have horrible results. So I don't want to say I am against it. I just don't hold it to the same regards as someone that drew it from scratch. But I feel if you are going to do it, that's fine. But, make sure you're crediting who you are getting it from. And if you're using references, I know sometimes it's hard. You may get something from a site that doesn't have the original creator of it. At least list the site you got it from. Try to be transparent as possible, because no artist wants their stuff used or taken from or stolen. They want to be credited for it, especially if you're using it for some type of game. So that's my 2 cents on it. I'm glad I was able to share that with y'all. But make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Stay tuned for the next one. And in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram on my personal page, Art by Felly, or on our tutorial page, which is art.tips.tutorials. Till then, take care.